Hey everyone, so today we have something small and interesting for you. It's the AK620 air cooler by DeepCool. Now I got this all-white version because I'm going for an all-white design in my case. I'm trying to utilize my older Noctua NHD15 that I have for a newer build, which is using the 13900K, but more on that in future videos. So now we're going to have a look at this particular unit and talk about if it's any good and whether you should buy it. It's certainly a very budget-friendly option, especially for those of you who need a cheap white air cooler. This might be a pretty decent option. Firstly, I like how everything is packaged. I think the undertone of the general design is really good. The philosophy of cardboard, ease of packaging, clear instructions and ease of installation is perfect. Everything has been put together very well, and they've done a very reasonable job in trying to include sort of less plastic, which is always a very good thing. Now they've given us a little pouch, and the first thing that we pick out from there is the PWM splitter, which allows both of your fans to be hooked up to it while utilizing only one port on the motherboard, which is really good. Sadly, it's not in a white color, it's in black, which is a bit contrasty, but it's there nonetheless if you need to use it. Now additionally, we get this plastic pouch with all of the little screws, the bracket and other little bits for assembly. I will have a picture of all of the supported sockets as well for this particular cooler, so that if you're curious about whether this will work on your configuration or not, you can find out. Now you will need a separate bottle of isopropyl, which is the 100% alcohol, to apply and remove the CPU paste, and just cloth. DeepCool gives you a huge, very generous amount of thermal paste, which is really good to see. You also get that long Allen key-like screwdriver to screw in the radiator to the CPU. Among the inclusions is also a really cool little booklet, which lays out all of the mounting instructions in a really clear, very simplistic and orderly way. It kind of reminds me of those little Lego instructions, which is really cool. Now, when we take the cooler out for the first time, or at least my first impression when I took it out, was that it's a little bit on the smaller side, especially compared to the Assassin 3 or the Noctua, D15. When you unwrap everything, you gaze at it, you kind of have a proper look at it. You don't really get a very premium sort of feel to it. I would say that, they've given you possibly the best that they could give you for the price, I'll put it that way. The fans are pretty nice, but nothing too exceptional. I didn't initially think that this could do the job of cooling the 12900K. I did have some slight reservations, wondering whether it'll do the job or not. But as you guys will see in the video later, it does actually do the job very well. And the cooling and noise level on it is great. So you have a little sticker down the bottom, which you'll need to remove before mounting the unit to your CPU. And now we're going to have a look at how it looks like from all of the sides. Alright, it's time to install everything. So locate the little bracket, set it to the correct position. In my case, I'm using LG A1700, so everything goes up on the metallic little bits. You want to put it towards the back of the motherboard and just slot it in gently. If you have an old bracket there, just remove it first, obviously. Then you get the little thumb screws, and you want them, with the whole side down, so you can screw everything in place and with the little metallic bits pointing upwards. Now, normally you would be doing this on, just the motherboard itself, but I'm doing it with the case as well, since this is a new cooler installation, and so it's a little bit more tricky. You will then get the little brackets, and they will have holes on them. In my case, I had to set it in position number 2 with the CPU arrow pointing towards the CPU. Again, check your manual, make sure you're placing things in the right position, and just double check things before you mount them as well. Then the next process is you get some more thumb screws. You want to point them star side upwards with the circular bits down the bottom. Again, a very simple process. You screw everything in place on all 4 sides, and you're good to go. So once this process is done, all you need to do is locate your PWM connectors on your motherboard. Every motherboard is a little bit different. You can use that PWM splitter that they give you, so you only utilize one socket. while the rest get connected to your fans. So you could do that if you wanted to. I'm using some Noctua thermal paste, and I'm just putting a little bit down the bottom. I noticed that if I put too much, it's no good, and it kind of spills out onto the radiator, which is a bad idea. Locate those 2 pointy bits that are going upwards, the ones that are located with the CPU arrows, and just align your radiator on top of them so that the screws match up. Get that little Allen key screwdriver and just begin tightening things very gently. I like to tighten about 4 turns on the bottom, and then 4 turns up the top, then 4 turns down the bottom. Kind of rotate a little bit until, you know, everything is tight and solid. You know, don't force anything. Once it hits the end, just kind of stop and, you know, kind of release the mechanism. Then just get the fans, and I like to have the cable down the bottom. And you know, you have those little kind of metallic grooves or whatever, you just kind of slot them in place. Be very, very gentle, as like if you're really harsh with this, you can actually bend the radiator, and I've seen that happen, and it's a bit of a nightmare to kind of straighten it out afterwards. Once you have both of the fans in, and you know, they're facing the right direction, you want kind of the flow to be going towards the back of your case and out of your case as well, like the airflow. Once that's sorted and done, just measure things, make sure that the fans are in kind of similar positions so that, you know, the unit works more effectively. Turn everything on and watch as it boots up or blows up your computer, one or the other, you know. And if it's all working and the airflow is going in one direction, then you're good to go. Anyway, time to move on to the tests and see how this performs. Alright, so we just ran a generic 3D Mark test, and the results are pretty positive. Now the decibel readings of the noise weren't too high. We got about 35 decibels in total, which is actually really quiet for what I've expected. I expected this to go into the much higher range. As far as the heat, when we did the CPU performance, not GPU, it hit about 70 degrees Celsius thereabouts, and it stuck to it throughout. So very consistent cooling and effective for a 12900K. For the price, it's really quite good, and I don't really see many options threatening this particular cooler. Now, it's not as good as the Noctua NHD 15, but it certainly, in my opinion, is the next best thing, and it's come to the point where I'm personally recommending this cooler for budget builds and systems. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.